Goeiemorgen allemaal. Welcome to our Friday morning, guys.
Yeah.
So today we've got a little bit of a different start. You can see I've got Marlon on the kit over there. I'm going to use one of my new toys. I'm going to go around and we've got Uncle Kurt over there.
Hello, everybody.
And then we've got Uncle Carlo over there.
What's good, uncles?
And then we swing all the way past my stereo monitor, LSR 6325, and we get back down to me. How's it? If not, why not, you know? And now I can let go and Johan can control that. See, now it's moving all by itself. It's not even me. So welcome, everybody.
Yeah.
We've got a nice four-piece here today. I'm just here for my looks. Like most sound guys.
Christo's conducting.
Yeah, I'm conducting. You'll see my skills just now. He thought I was conducting, but he wasn't. You're watching my fingers. So yeah, you want to say morning, guys?
Let's start with Carlo.
Oh, morning, guys. Listen, I'm excited and happy to be here for my second edition, you know. I'm no guest anymore.
Your family.
Yeah, I'm family now, you know. So, yeah. What's up, guys?
Kurt.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well and you're safe and warm in bed.
And if you're at work.
And if you're at work, hope you're having some hot coffee and have gloves on.
And do your work, of course.
Yeah, and do your work, hopefully. Hopefully do your work. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here. Thanks so much.
Nice. Good morning, guys. From me, Mr. Green, I'm just blessed. We have Kurt, amazing, phenomenal piano player in the building today. Great friend of mine. Been on stage with him many, many times. And he's also an incredible piano teacher. So, yeah.
Cool, man. So thanks for joining us today. Just for all the techies out there, I'll run through my stuff. Marlon was supposed to give a Pearl endorsement there, but I don't think he wanted to.
Always play Pearl drums.
There we go. I'm on my Avid S6L. Same thing I was on last night. Our chain is a bit different this morning. We're running from here via the RME Maddie Dante, which is being fed by the DOT SRC, because we're running 96K. We're dropping down to 48K into the RME, up to Dante, up to upstairs. We'll be feeding into a Tascam US 4x4, which is then feeding into the iPad, into our switcher app, which is controlling where Johan's sitting up in the studio. So that's just a quick run around of what our connections are. Marlon's forgotten to hit record on his camera. It's okay. We're not live or anything. Just take your time. Hurry up. So there's a bit of a technical. So send the questions. I've got Johan in my ears. So I'll get. You guys can send us some live questions. I'll hear the questions. I'll relay them to the guys. If you want to ask some personal questions, I'll vet them first.
Oh, yeah.
But we're just here to have fun. So what's nice today is obviously we've got a bit of a bigger blend, so the guys can do some nice blends for us. I'm doing some mastering. I'm going to put my mastering plug-in on the screen for you guys, so you guys can see. I'll get Johan to put it in the top corner. Pin that on there. There we go. So you can see we're streaming. So we're trying to aim for a nice loudness range there, which is around about neg 14 for streaming onto 16 to 14, streaming onto our platforms. We're using the onboard Pro limiter from Avid, which is working quite nicely. And you get a nice history graph there of our talking. You can see my voice going up and down when the music's playing. We're doing minimal compression on that. And we're doing a true peak limit of neg 4. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, obviously.
Definitely P2.
Yeah,
definitely.
you're with me there.
Yeah, P4, definitely.
with the Xbox. With the Xbox.
With the Xbox, yeah. If it was PS4, it would have been different. So, yeah, send your questions. I think I'm going to get the guys to play us another nice tune, and then we'll do some more Q&A after that. So take it away. we go. Thanks, guys. That was nice. Do you want to give us the title of that song, Marlon?
It's called Wasn't Looking.
Wasn't looking.
Wasn't Looking, yeah. So these are just loops that I've created. And yeah, that's
Nice,
what we're
man.
using. That's what we're using.
Just a big shout out to Uncle Gorksy from SA Backline for all the cool kit that we're using here today.
Oh yeah.
The motif, the SWR, and the pull drum kit, Master Series. So one thing that went really well last week, we got some good Q&A going between us and then from the people. So Kurt being new on the block, we're going to put him on the spot.
Definitely.
Obviously, we're in studio here, so we're all on cans. Marlon's on in-ears, I'm on in-ears, two of them are on cans. So there's a different environment that we're in, even though we're all listening on wireless packs just to make it more comfortable. One of the things that from doing monitors for so many years that's come across big time is the fact that there's no one musician that's the same in terms of what they want to hear. And there's sometimes a bit of a misconception that everybody wants to listen to a CD. You know, whatever's in your ear's got to be like perfect. But it's and we do have people that are like that, and it comes from guys that work a lot in studio, and they do that to stay in context. And you get other people that want to focus in on their instrument and then just need a couple of elements around that to help them place themselves. And then you get some guys that want to rather listen to the environment and only have themselves. And there's different scenarios. For example, Marlon sitting at the kit, he's got a nice track, he can hear the two guys nice and loudly. There's minimal kit in your ears because you're sitting at the kit. Now, I know from working with different drummers, there's some unique sounds when it gets to drummers. So I'm going to pick on Kurt. So from your perspective, when you're doing sound check, when you're doing monitors, working with, in this case, just a 3-piece or sometimes a much bigger band, like a church or on a festival or anywhere like that, what is it that you start off with, and then as you're looking across the stage, what are the things that you feel that needs to be there for you to feel comfortable to be able to do your bit?
Yeah. I feel very comfortable with kick-hats and snare. Those are in terms of drums, those are the most important things for me, especially the kick and the hat. And then a little bit of overhead so I can hear the rest of the kit. And then in terms of bass, I think bass is the loudest thing in my ears. I cannot play without bass. I cannot play without bass. So for me, bass is a must. And it's louder than everything else. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I prefer it that way.
Does he owe you money?
Too much. Yeah, so that's what I, and then if there's other instruments, a little bit of them as well. And then in terms of piano and keyboards, I just like a warm tone. Regardless of whichever patch I'm using, if it sounds warm for me, if I can feel some body on it, then I'm very happy. Everything else in terms of dynamics is just in my hands, how much I put in and so on. But if I can have warmth, I'm very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you tend to, on the patches that you use, whether it's one keyboard or multiple keyboards, do you tend to set the volume on the keyboards and the patches based on that single level that you've gotten? So in other words, you place yourself in the mix with that.
Yes.
And you'll adjust volumes of what you're hearing.
Yes, definitely.
So you sort of maintain a level, and that's what you're expecting to fit into the music, obviously.
Yes.
So if something needs to stick out like a little motif or something, that's what you'll push it a bit more than others,
Yes.
like you were saying.
Yes.
I think for me that's key. When I work with keyboard players who've got one or multiple keyboards, I'd rather get them to set the patches and the patch levels on their side than me trying to figure out what they're doing. If I've got 4 keyboard lines here and I'm listening and I'm going, oh, too loud, too soft, and I'm mixing the keyboards, what I'm doing is I'm reproducing or reproducing what you're not doing.
Yeah.
You know, because you might be playing piano with the pad underneath, but you want the pad to feature more than the piano. And I'm thinking, why is the piano so soft? So I push piano, which means I'm undoing what you're doing. So I have these kind of discussions when I'm working with guys where I'd rather set my faders to 0, set gains, send them evenly to your ears on my aux feed when we do initial setup, and then get you to guide me on my gain structure on where you want certain sounds to be.
Yeah.
So that I know if I leave your pads or all your keyboards at a similar level here, especially in live performances, when you grab volume on a synth or a piano, it's based on what you're hearing. And I know that we've worked together in the setup, which means when you want a pad to feature or a piano to feature or a string, you're actually still mixing what the crowd's getting,
yes,
you know.
Yes.
But having said that, they are based on what the people are doing and knowing the music. I think that's a key point. If you're playing covers or you're playing music that I know the album, I've listened to it, and I feel the piano is getting lost or the synth or what, then I make an educated decision on that and a creative decision. But I'm not remixing what you're trying to do. And I think that's from a keyboard perspective a big thing, even today, because layers on layers on layers on layers on layers, it can be very easy to get confused on this side of what you're trying to do, especially when there's things like track playing and all that. You're placing yourself within the track. Now, the track, for example, I've been running the track quite low just to try and feature you guys more. But what was nice is you guys actually just playing along as if it's a loop. You know, it wasn't actually a feature set. But if there are tracks playing like with a band or something like that, you also need to know what's in the track. Because I've been in situations where an MD will say, no, in this song, really push the track. So I'm pushing the track, and then I'm looking and I'm listening to what everybody else is playing, and I'm like, which one? You know, because there's like heavy synth bass in the track, and you're going for it. You know, it's like,
I get you.
Okay, do I filter out the low end on the track, or do I pull you down? Or
For sure.
This is the kind of discussions that need to happen. You know, I've actually got James Bathenswaith on Tuesday, hopefully. We're going to do a little bit of Ableton chat and all that. I'm going to ask him some of these questions because he does that whole MD vibe where he's doing charts for all the guys on stage plus creating all the loops. And sometimes when they create the loops, they make it full because it's for a vocalist rehearsing or something. Then we get to stage. Now we got musos. Now they've got to readjust based on what's happening and certain, like, okay, don't play that part, or you playing this, I'm taking this out the track. You playing that, so let me leave that shaker in there because you're doing something else, or vice versa, stuff like that. So it's all these kind of conversations that need to happen and that the sound guy's got to be involved in. When you're doing monitoring, it's a bit different because I can't take a creative feel, because you do get sound guys that they listen individually to all the mixes and they go, oh, his mix is not lacquer, let me tweak it. But I'm not you, you know, so I'd rather spend time getting to know who you are. And then based on that conversation, when songs change and I listen to your mix, I'm going, he actually loves a lot of bass, but he's changed, he's gone to a pedal or something, so the bass is maybe on a lower register, so it's not cutting through. Then I lift the bass for you because that's what that conversation was, you know. So it's not me thinking the mix is not sitting lacquer. It's me thinking, keeping your mindset in mind and doing an adjustment from that perspective. And it goes for, I mean, it's an interesting concept. I mean, if they're sitting with a 12-piece band, it's a lot of, you know, if I look there, that's how I think. If I look there, that's how I think. If I look there, that's how I think. You know, and then with vocals as well. Some vocalists, their own vocal, no one else, and click and maybe a bit of pad. Other people's got to hear all other 12 vocals.
For sure.
Now that creates its own issue.
Nightmare.
Because, you know, to get that many stuff in your ears or even in a wedge on a stage, you know, they'll stand there, do their own sound check, I'm happy. Okay, now as we're doing everybody else, they ask for more. So in the first song, I can't hear myself. But you've just thrown a whole trash heap in there.
Sure.
Not calling the other vocals trash. I'm just saying you just thrown too much stuff in there. So you got to be very specific in what you get to hear. So based on that discussion, I didn't ask you this last week, so let's ask you the same question.
Sure. The question is again?
What did you have for breakfast? What do you want in? What do you need in your ears? Cool. Does it change when you change bands?
Definitely. So I would say bass, of course. Myself, that's probably number one. If I can hear myself, I'm happy. From a drum perspective, I think it's kind of similar to what Kurt said. Hi-hats, snare, kick for me is key. When it comes to drums, obviously overheads, so I can hear. And then main key player. If there's two piano players, the main piano player will definitely be a little bit louder than the second key player. But those three is basically key for me. And then obviously if there's a lead vocal, the lead vocal, of course.
Yeah, because they're steering the show.
Yeah, I don't do backing so much. And if it's horns, a little bit. Horns, not too much because they're loud. They're loud instruments, especially trumpet. So that's basically...
So the question would be, say you get it to a festival. We spoke about this last week.
Sure.
You've got 5 minutes.
For sure.
You get like 2 seconds with a sound guy. What do you ask for?
Cool. Track, if it's a Mikasa set, track, well, that's basically the band, half the band. Track and bass.
Track and bass.
That's basically it.
But you know the music backwards as well,
Yeah.
and you gotten to know Jay and how he does his thing.
For sure. If I can hear myself and I can hear music, then I'm happy. Even
Yeah.
when it's a full band setup and it's maybe tracks with a drummer, if I can hear the track and a little bit drums, I'm cool with it as well.
But if you're standing next to him as well,
yeah,
like
that
in this
helps.
scenario, both of you, you got a bit of drums. You don't really have any drums.
I
in
don't
your
even
pants
need drums,
because
but
in
yeah.
the room here, you're sitting right in front of him. Yeah,
That's basically my situation. Yeah,
yeah. No,
and
that's-
especially on stage, most of the time I'm next to the drummer, obviously on his left side. So
yeah.
most of the time,
I've seen that often when you do normal stages, and then you get to some of these variety stages where they do this fancy placement.
for sure.
That's generally when you have the most, for lack of a better word, insecure band on the stage because you've changed their environment. You know, like
Listen,
the
but-
drummer's over
but you-
there now, so
Yeah.
you're trying to get that feel over here. So that thump is
I get
difficult,
you.
and it's so that's when you've got to you trust in yourself. Let me get what I need, and I know it's happening out there.
I get you.
You
And
know?
then also, I think also like most of the time in the rehearsal spaces are obviously more smaller, and you get to know the whole feel of the band. Everything feels nice and compact. And then you get to the gig, and it's a huge stage, man. And the drummer is 100 meters away from you. Well, not 100 meters, but far away from you, and it feels different, you know. So yeah, that is also something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I call that the garage syndrome. You get
garage
that a lot with younger bands as well. That's done small clubs, small stages. They rehearse on top of each other, and everything's loud. Then they get onto a festival stage at Opikopi or something, which is now 20 meters wide, and they still just 3 or 4 people.
For sure.
And the oak is like, I'm exposed. You know, because
Yeah.
then the monitors get louder, everything get louder.
You
you
alone,
know.
yeah.
That's
We
when
spoke about this last week.
Yeah, then
Yeah,
that's when
yeah.
the side fills get in. You know, you just
Crystal
sort of
and
go
I,
loud.
we had a conversation about this last week where we were saying the difference between your sound check and the ambience of the venue when people come in. And not a lot of people take that into consideration. So in your sound check, and I mean, you guys can say how you feel, I always try to play the same level that I'm going to be playing in the show, because that's how I can get my monitor mixed the way that I like it.
For sure.
Because if I'm playing soft in the sound check, by the third song, and I'm trying to get especially at festivals, not a lot, you know, if you don't have the monitor engineer close by you, you're trying to get somebody's attention to say, hey man, I need more of this, I need more of this, I need more of this. And you're in the third song, it's a festival, you know, you don't have time for all of that.
For
So
sure.
you have to play the level in your sound check.
For sure.
But then people don't take into consideration. Now you've got this whole audience coming in, and that, I mean, can you speak about that?
Yeah, I mean that's that at festivals that tends to be less of an issue because everything is so loud already. Even and the stage is so big, so you try to tend to get into that moment quicker. Churches suffer from this big time, where in a quite empty auditorium, empty place like that, they do, or in theatre situations where the rooms are very quiet, you can get almost scared by your own sound, so you sort of tend to get comfortable, especially when there's like 2 days of rehearsal. Take Idols, for example. I did Idols for years, and the band, you know, they're on ears, but and we used to tell the contestants, they're on handhelds. Stay on the mic, keep both your ears in. No, but I don't really need it. Once that crowd comes in and they start screaming, you lose the click, you lose the chord, you lose everything.
Wow.
And if we do a sound check with you not holding the mic properly, in other words, you're 2-3 fingers off, it sounds great during rehearsals because there's nothing else happening. But once the crowd comes in, I'm struggling in broadcast because there's so much screaming through your microphone and not enough, especially when they do a ballad. They go sit on a little chair, drop the mic to you and sing, and it's beautiful in rehearsals.
Whistling in the crowd.
For sure.
And then the song starts. People don't know what song you're going to sing. They start screaming, and you can't. I've seen it. Eyes go like this because the click's gone. Was why? Your microphone, which is the loudest thing in your ears, has just got screaming in it.
Right.
And you missed the counting or the cue chord or something like that. You know, and then it's. So
For sure.
we make a point of emphasizing that kind of thing. And in a church with vocalists is a big thing. Lead vocalist, everything's fine. And then the audience comes in and they sing in unison along with you.
For sure.
You know, so all those key elements get masked by that noise.
I have a question for you, Crystal. So basically, in a theater situation for you as a sound engineer. Treatment-wise, how you mix band, is it similar? Is it two different worlds? To a festival, say like a theater, to a festival. I'm not talking about loudness. Obviously, a festival is going to be loud. But your way you treat band in terms of EQing, is it totally different?
I wouldn't say totally different. Your perspective and your focus points tend to move to the environment that you're in. When there's a lot of when the noise floor's loud, in other words, the people, the crowd, all that, even outside when at a festival and all that kind of stuff, or that kind of thing, you get a lot of guys get away with a lot because you can really have the impact get the people. So kick, snare, hats, whatever the intro of the song, and then the lead vocal and all that. But there must be a 12-piece band on stage, and there's like half of them are hidden in the noise.
For sure.
Where when you go to a theater, if you don't know how to mix your band properly, that's when you get shown up because the crowd's going to keep quiet.
For sure.
And then you do the same thing, and the kick and everything's out of place.
Good. For me,
the expectation of the crowd is different.
For sure.
Yeah.
From a bass player perspective, of course, I get this a lot, especially in theater, when I play sometimes a 4x10, maybe with a 15, which is loud. And I get this a lot. Yeah, sound engineer come to me and say, listen, your amp is loud. Your amp is really loud.
And in your mind, it's no different than normal.
Yeah, for sure,
So what happens there is the difference, indoors, outdoors is a big difference. Indoors, everything's contained. The room helps you a lot, the reverb. While either helps or destroys you, depending on if you're in Stand Bank Arena or State Theatre. It's two completely different
for sure.
scenarios. But what happens is you're in theatres especially, it's easier to distinguish sound because the room's so quiet. So I can hear the guitar amp, I can hear the bass amp, I hear the drummer very directly.
For sure.
So as you're mixing, and then I've had scenarios where I pull the guitar out and he's still sitting in the mix to the point where I actually want to make him a bit softer. Meanwhile, it's just, you've got 20 meters of flat theatre floor and an amp on the ground, and it's just bouncing and projecting into the room because theatres are designed for that. So that's why these days you'll see a lot of guitars swung around or put off stage, mic them off stage, to have control. And also because if you turn the guitarist, the worst thing for a guitarist is turn his amp down because his tone changes.
For sure.
The gain structure changes. So you want to keep him healthy. So it's rather keep the amp going, put it off mic, get it mic'd up properly, get it in the ears or in the wedges, but then its energy is going a different direction. So you get back your control back. So to ask you to turn bass down is because inside, in a theater environment, even though it's someone like Mikasa, you are mixing about 10 dB softer for the same impact than what you would be outside. So now I'm trying to do that, and you're forcing me in a different direction. And it's like this battle between the two things because I don't have control of the both.
For sure.
And then it's just, again, if it's a guy that you don't know and he walks up to you and say, turn down your bass amp, it's a completely different scenario to me walking up to you, where, and I'm not going to just say turn up down bass amp. I'm going to say, listen, I'm really struggling out there because it's softer. I need you to drop your amp. It's a completely different discussion.
For sure.
For sure. Just like pointing a finger.
For sure.
So I hope that answers your question. Yeah. But look, these days with the PAs available, all your high-end PAs, the consoles, everything, you can get shown up quickly just on the tech, whether you know what you're doing, because they're very transparent, very open, and your little sibilances and everything that you're trying to do and your nuances actually gets translated. 20 years ago, nuances on big outdoor PAs were a luxury, because it didn't really translate that well, which now, indoors or outdoors, it translates very well if you've got headroom on your PA. So you can approach your technical scenario the same thing, but you always have to keep in mind where you're at.
For sure.
Like at a festival, no matter if you're following Mikasa and you come up with an acoustic band, and a lot of the band members will choose their first song based on who they're following because, there's a lot of things happen, but you've got a responsibility to keep the crowd going. So you can't come in and let's just put this crowd down. You've got to come in and hit them hard because that's the expectation. So you got to, your kick, snare, hat, your groove's got to be there off the bat. That's like I was asking you guys. For me, if I'm in front of a house, depending on who's on stage, the groove's number one. The groove and the lead vocal. And if they've got a guitar with them or something like that, because you get the people's attention, and then you fill in the band. You get the body around it. And that happens quickly. But if you miss that, the song starts, and if you only get there with your groove halfway through the song, it's too late. People already like, you know, and your lead vocalist or whoever's leading the band feels it as well. If you walk in like, oh, let's go, and like people just stare at you. They're like deer in headlights. Like, what are you talking about?
For sure.
So you got it works both ways, yeah. I don't know if there's any questions from Johan yet. Yeah. Kurt, it's a question for you.
Yeah.
So someone's asking, when you mentioned warm tones, is it a specific pad,
No,
EQ, or what is it an effect? What do you explain that a bit better?
No, by warm I mean every patch. Every patch that I use must have some kind of body. So if I'm gonna bring the pad in, I'm bringing the Rhodes in. Can you hear that warmness?
Yeah.
The warm.
Warmness. Yeah. the left hand. Yeah.
Can you hear? And then if I'm gonna bring something a bit sharp in, it's still there's still some body to it.
Yeah. And that's something, if there's too much other stuff in your cans, you lose that quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it just gets masked.
Yes.
You know, a lot of guys, the left hand on pianos and keyboardists, if they're not uneducated, become a problem for a sound guy because you're playing his parts
Yes.
and you're
For
masking
sure.
what he's doing. You know,
Yes.
so the biggest solution for me there is duct tape. You know, but on behind the deck. But it happens a lot with guys that play a lot alone, and you try and create a groove with your left hand. And now you got a band, and you're still doing the same thing. You know, and you actually start getting clashes between guys. So
For sure.
there's a lot of trust happening there. But your side, I mean, you're playing around what he's doing because you've got
Yes.
him so loud there. So when you're adding pads, it's not clashing with what he's doing. You're not trying to play tempos and things like that.
Yes.
I hope that answers your question. Anything else from you guys?
Yeah, I have a question for Kurt. In terms of your left hand playing and having a bass player on stage, especially somebody that you trust, obviously, does that then give you more freedom to change your voicing
Yes. Yes. Totally. If I have
and
a
reharmonization?
if I have a bass player, I barely play on my left, on my low end. I barely play on it. I'll be more mid range going high because the bass player is already there laying that foundation.
Right.
And so I barely go unless I have to tell him, okay, this is the bass line, this is what you have to do. But generally,
We call that arrangements while you wait.
yeah. But generally, I stay in my mid range.
Training in the flow.
For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. For sure.
Anything else, John?
Let's play something.
Okay, nothing. Yeah, I just realized you guys can't hear Johan. It's only me listening to him.
Yeah.
That's fine. So I think for me, that's. I wanted to just talk about that monitoring scenario and all that, and explain a couple of the things that happens in my head based around what you guys are saying and all that. So I've had my say. If you guys want to do anything else, otherwise, I think we're gonna play out with a song. Have you got something for us there?
Yes, we do. But I have a question for you before
Yes.
we go. And the guys are going to laugh about this, but we've been in this situation individually many, many times where you hear feedback
Yeah.
on stage, be it in the middle of a show.
I obviously wasn't there, so
Yeah. Why does it take certain sound engineers so long to find that frequency?
Okay, that's a very good question. Do you want the long answer or the short answer?
Can play more music.
We've got our audience here. We've got a streaker. I spoke about this the other day in one of my sessions. I can't remember which number now, where I spoke about the reactive engineer and the responsive engineer. So the difference there is, just to put it in a nutshell, if something happens that obviously feedback is something you can't, it's an accident, put it that way. But it's like a a driver that drives well with the, if the car slides in the rain, you can respond because there's been training, like a rally driver. I mean, they anticipate that kind of stuff, but you can correct it. So it's a weird example, I know. But what happens with feedback is you've got different kinds of feedback. I've seen guys that are getting too excited in front of house. So they start, especially during songs. So there's two, and you guys would have noticed this. You get that feedback when the song ends. You come out of a song, it's like, big crescendo, and then there's like a feedback that hangs there, either low frequency or one that just runs, and then it's gone again. So that's when a guy's doing a lot of makeup gain and stuff, or he's mixing into the headroom that he has on his PA. In other words, the guy's trying to outperform what the PA can do. So the PA starts compressing, and when the song ends, everything releases, and that release then creates the feedback because your faders are higher, and then now there's no more compression. Then you've got mechanical feedback where it's a vocal mic and a wedge, it's something like that, or when you're at a sound check and there's like this low end feed that just sits there, and it's every time the vocalist talks, like they're on their mic and then they just talk, and then it's like, and then everybody mutes his mic and it's gone. And everybody. Meanwhile, that can be the floor tom. Sure. If a guy's if he's trying to get something going on the kick with the floor toms and stuff, and there's a resonance sitting there because the skins are vibrating, and there might be wedges, and their vocal just happens to be talking and triggering vibrations. That's then going, and then low end vibration sits there, and then that feeds. But you think it's the vocalist. So what I tell guys to do is, when you do your sound checks, when you do line checks, make a point of listening to everything. You need to know what's in front of you. You need to know where everything is. Your access, your layout's got to be set out properly. And I've listened to every single mic. I've listened to every single scenario. So when I hear something, I can contextualize it, because there is tonal differences to that feedback and things that can cause it. And slow feedbacks, in other words, especially in big spaces. When I say slow feedbacks, so like you can hear it coming, and then it goes. That's almost always not stage. That's PA, because it takes a time for that circle to complete, for that feedback to build. Low frequencies feed slower than high frequencies because it's so much more engineered. That's why most feedback is high frequency. But the thing triggering it can be a lower root frequency. So you've got to understand that technical element as well. Yeah. That's a big thing with lapel mics, where guys sit with lapel mics or podium mics, and you get these high frequencies, and they're eking out all those high frequencies, and you start losing all definition, but he's not getting rid of his feedback. Meanwhile, the feedback is like a root frequency of maybe 250 or 160. And if you just get rid of that, you can put back all that HF because all the harmonics are gone. So there's different elements of doing that as well. So to answer your question, lack of preparedness or unfamiliar environment. In other words, if I'm at a festival and I walk up and I know what I'm grabbing with my band, but there's 3 guitar mics, there's this. You can be caught off guard because there's channels open that you're not aware of. So I tend to walk up and just pull everything down and mute everything and then unmute what I want, because then I know I'm starting from a semi-blank slate, as opposed to I've been in scenarios where the guys know what I've got, and I get there and he's created VCAs and he said, well, I know your band, so there's your VCAs. And I'll go, cool, that's nice. But I don't go look at all the other layers. And he might have a MC mic or something that he's forgotten open from a previous band somewhere else. And then I start working with my stuff and I realize, hang on, it's not, and then I've got to start looking. Sure. And some of your smaller consoles, the GUIs, the interfaces, everything's 2, 3, 4 layers deep because you've only got limited space. So it takes time to find it, especially when you're not familiar with it. So again, I told the guys the other day on my one talk on whatever, know your gear well. In other words, if you're going to walk, if you've not worked on a console enough, watch YouTube, check out the videos, study it, know the device you're going to be on well, and then stick to a workflow that works. In other words, your layout on the console, even your methodology when it comes to sound checks, all this kind of stuff, it creates a pattern so that you don't get surprised. So when a feedback then happens, if it's a short, sharp one, it's generally a vocal mic that swung past the wedge. If it's like a 5K high frequency and it's a pianist with a vocal with a wedge, it sometimes just happens when he looks left because there's a reflection off the cheek. Sure. So you got to realize that. Then it's a bit of re-angling, understanding the mic that you've got with the pickup pattern, re-angle the mic a bit. So if it's in sound checks, it shouldn't take too long. If it takes long, the guy's treading water. He's panicking, and there's reasons for panicking. And you're either in, like I said, in an unfamiliar environment or an unfamiliar technical situation. So, having said that, we've all faced that, and over time, like I was talking earlier about the feedback with the toms and all that kind of stuff that happens, and you started hearing and learning that. But if you understand the fundamentals of how feedback works, what feedback is, you start looking for it in the right places. And the reaction guys, if it's happening in the show, you'll hear a feedback stop and it's gone. But he's just pulled down the master, or he's pulled down his VCAs, or he's pulled down a vocal. That affects what your audience experience. The feedback's already bad enough. But if you just react because you don't know what it is, you mess up stuff you're not supposed to be grabbing. Whereas if you hear it and you can respond like, I know what that is, and you pull that one thing, feedback was a separate entity,
Right.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir.
That was the short answer.
That's it. Caller, you want to say?
I'll do another session like that on Tuesday
on
night
feedback.
or on feedback.
No, I'm saying you want to say goodbye to the people?
Goodbye, people. I'm just
We're
kidding.
going to play you out with a song. What's it called?
We're just going to jam.
Okay.
We're jamming.
Good.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks. Hope you
Anybody's
enjoyed it.
birthday today?
No,
We've had 2 weeks of birthdays, and now no birthdays today.
From my side, Christo, again, thanks for having us. Caller on bass, the legend.
I'm assuming there's no
Kurt.
more questions before we end out.
Nothing on my side.
Any questions?
Oh, there is questions.
No.
All right.
So we can listen to Jan quickly. Yeah. Okay, what would make you more receptive for a sound guy coming to give you a scenario? So, like I was mentioning earlier, so from a musician's perspective, what makes you, wegduivel or appreciate what he's asking you? What are from an attitude perspective, from a human perspective, not a musical perspective?
Can you go first?
We'll each say it briefly. What would you say? Good.
Just be calm, man. We're all human beings. Just be chilled. I mean, the way you speak to me or the way you speak to somebody, whoever, just be chill. Just be calm. And then obviously my reaction is going to be the way you reacted towards me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carlo?
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar. Like, I get it a lot, man. Especially when I'm busy on stage, because I focus a lot. Sometimes guys will just come in. Like, for instance, say if my amp is too loud, some guys will come and just turn the amp down. If you do that as a sound engineer, you will get a totally different reaction from me, man.
Yeah.
But if you come to me first and say, listen, your amp is a bit loud, you mind if I turn it down? Cool. Now we're good, So, yeah, I think it's kind of similar to what Kurt said. Mm-hmm. If you come calm, you're going to get calm. If you come to fight, you're going to get a fight, man.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't understand why we have to explain that to people, because I mean it's what a lot of guys don't get, and specifically sound engineers. I love you guys, but this is what you don't get sometimes. We're all here to work, so we're a team. If our relationship on stage, if I don't even have the decency while you setting up drum mics, for example, to greet you, I mean that's disrespectful. So my approach is, again, to just agree with the guys. Mm-hmm. Just watch your approach, and understand roles. Understand that the regardless of the genre of music, yes, you might have mixed 6,000 bands in your life, but that band at that particular moment is a group of different people. They don't know you. Walk up, introduce yourself, and I mean that already sets the tone for mutual respect. Mm-hmm. So that during the sound check, whatever you ask for, hey, Marlon, can you play your snare louder? Because I'm not getting what. Cool, man. Whatever you need.
I think, to add something there, I think this thing starts like off stage, Simple thing for me as a bass player coming, like regarding gear, Sometimes you'll put on a tag rider, a certain amp. And that's there for a reason, because that's your preference and that's your sound. Sometimes I appreciate it when a sound company or at least a sound engineer calls me and say, listen, we know this is what you require, but we don't have it. What's your second option? That for me, I can appreciate, man. Because number one, I can bring my stuff from home. When I ask something like I have something similar at home, I will never ask something that I don't have, you know. That for me, I can appreciate as well. I know it's a little bit off topic,
No,
but that for me helps
I
a
know.
lot.
We actually spoke about this other night.
I respect sound engineers and sound companies for doing that.
Yeah, no, that's a key thing.
I
mean,
don't like surprises, man. When I get to a gig and there's something that you didn't ask for, and then they don't say anything, that makes it even worse. They don't say anything.
We had a session on this. We had some guys asking about tech riders and all that, and there's two sides of the coin. There's some bands that got unrealistic tech riders, and like what you just said, where you won't ask for something that you don't know or you don't have that you
For
play.
sure.
Where there are some guys that see a tech rider as an opportunity to get to play on something else.
For sure.
You know, and then it's like
Demo.
they're going to go play in Pof Adder and they want a Montage 88. No one in Pof Adder has a Montage 88.
Yeah,
You know?
that's true.
I get you.
So there's two sides of the coin.
Yeah.
So have a realistic rider. And if you're traveling, it's difficult to carry stuff. I completely understand that. And we do that all the time,
Yeah.
where especially with festivals. The time crunch, the lineup, we don't have time or
For sure.
budget to change everything
For
else.
sure.
So we have maybe two options there, a couple of options there, maybe one or two drum kits, depending on the space.
For sure.
But then there has to be communication from production way in advance
You know?
that this is what's going to be on the gig. Do you
Yeah.
guys have a problem with it? And this is why. It's not that we don't want to honor your rider, but because of logistics, because of time changes, because of
A DJ.
whatever. Yeah. You guys go. You're playing 3 songs. You know, do we have to change out everything?
For sure.
You
for
know,
sure.
so-
for sure. For sure.
I mean, I've done award shows and stuff where a band does one song, and they insist
wow.
if if it's not our stuff, we don't play, and they do one song. So then
Yeah.
production then agrees to that, but then it's on production to plan. We need extra crew, we need time, we need ad breaks, we need whatever we need, and space. So
I get
stage design is involved, everything's involved.
Yeah.
Now both drum kits got to be on risers so we can swap them out unless we've got a different performance area. There's so many logistics that's got to come into place when
Around.
production makes that
For
decision.
sure.
So it's not this. And if you're quoting to get a festival, and you take the approach of, well, this is what I own, so I'll take that, and well, it's fine. The guys will be happy when they get there. And I've heard guys say that, and oh man. And I've done sound at venues where I know the band that's coming, and I look at the stage, I'm like, are they bringing their own stuff? What do you mean? I said, like, well, they don't. This is not what they ask for. I know them. No, it's fine. It's fine. They've done this before. I'm like, do they know that it's different? No. When they get here, we'll speak to them.
Yeah.
And then I've had scenarios where I then pick up the phone and I warn Oaks, because if they're coming tomorrow or there's time, listen, if you want a keyboard or something, there isn't one here. You know, and or you go to production, you speak about it, but it's communication. You know, it's
sure.
definitely communication, and it's an injustice. It's the same thing with me. I put on riders when I travel with artists. I put preference of consoles, and I put a long list, but then I put a short list of things I don't want on that gig. And it's not because I don't like that console, but when I work with that band, that console can't deliver what I need to do.
For sure.
You know, from a technical perspective and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'll go with
Definitely.
pretty much anything when you travel, but if I know that I've got like if we travel with Blue Bamboo, I need to do 6 stereo in-ear mixes, or 5 stereo in-ear mixes, and I need 4 lines to the drummer so I can do click, track, or do drums, click, track, and band. Just 4 mono mixes onto a little mixer next to Marlon, you know, and it does his own little thing there. But that means I need a console that has that amount of auxiliaries and outputs. So you give me an O1V, yeah, you know, it's not going to work. Nothing against that O1V, but it can't do that.
For sure.
You know, and it's that kind of. And so I mean, I face the same scenario, but it's communication. I've had guys phone me from wherever in the country, and they say, "Listen, I know you've said not this or this or this, but we here. The budget we got for this gig is X. If you can bring something great, otherwise, will you make do with this?" And then what I can do is I can have a conversation with my client, with my band, and say, when we get there, XYZ, this is the thing.
Is
you know.
waiting for you, yeah.
But it's everybody in the same boat.
As long as it happens beforehand.
Yes.
But you see, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it starts there. Like, your reaction to what you're going to get. I can appreciate that, man. And when I get there, I also love the guys, you know. Because, you know, the respect there already.
Yeah. Anything else? Johan,
That's it.
are we done? I'm asking. He said, okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so you guys can play us out with a song?
All right. Final words, Carlo, greet quickly.
I love you guys, man, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Kurt.
Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy your weekend.
Tridelius music brings in pearl drums. I had to say. See, Christo?